Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. This is the Pantasy Toy Store modular. It is on a 32 by 32 base. It has almost 3,000 pieces. It retails for $140 US, and I got it for around 115, a little under 115 thanks to sales and coupons on Amazon, available to just anyone. But again, the standard retail price for this is $140. This is the 5th anniversary of Pantasy as a brand, so they include one of their 5th anniversary special figures here, as well as 4 regular ones. And you can also see the plaque up here has the 2020 on it to show you just how old they are, or rather, just how young. Now, this does have the ability to remove individual floors, so you can see more of the interior details, of which there is a lot, but it's much easier to just come back here to the back and open the thing up to see the interior. You can also do that up here, open the thing up to see the interior. And then if you want to go even further, you can start to pull some of the individual small sub builds out, or like I said, you can remove whole floors. One of these hinges has a squeakiness to it because it does use hinge pieces that are the same exact material for the top and bottom parts. In order to fix the squeak, GoBricks, which is the manufacturer of the parts that Pantasy uses, needs to switch to using 2 different resin blends, just so that you'll have a little bit more smooth action there. But it does work. You do end up with just a little bit of gap over here, but see what this looks like from around the non-camera friendly sides. They have an interesting design here with a small balcony on the back, which is interesting. You see the whole thing has a very fantasy-based inspiration to it. So it's kind of like it's trying to take a little bit of late post-medieval castle inspiration, but in a very fantasy way. Obviously, you have a lot of gold all over this, to just make it more just shiny. A lot of people won't like the kind of flesh tone, the light flesh tone for these parts up here, this whole upper section for the most part, which is, it's something that they do. It's something that they like to have in their color scheme. Also, you notice there's this big flat area over here, which I personally don't like tremendously, but it does save on pieces. So they've got just these large pieces rather than building this up with even more pieces, which would take away from the budget for other details. They've done it as simply as possible over here, but as a result, you get something that's just relatively plain. I much prefer this down here, where you do see the little bits of the stairs sticking through and just some different, different texture, I need to remember to remind folks when I do something like this that uses a different style of figure, that buildings like this and builds like this in general are compatible with other brands' minifigures. So if you want to mix and match or simply replace, you can do that easily. Things like doors will work. Things like seats will work. Actually, in some cases, they'll work better with other brands' figures, just because these figures do require you to change out the legs to make them sit. And then when they are sitting, it's just a different thing, but I'll talk more about that later and show it with the figures. Nice use of some foliage, just a little bit of foliage around. I mean, some of these are pretty small, these little flower boxes, but they are there, and it provides a little bit of life to the scene. Mostly this hanging thing up inside is nice, up at the top of the kind of turret, the decorative turret there. I like the angles on these. I personally would have gone for a brighter color, but this using the olive green color there prevents it from clashing too much when you look at this from the front. So you see the flowers, but you don't see, at least in my opinion, to my eyes, you don't see the green quite as much. Lots of gold. The gold that GoBricks makes is absolutely beautiful, and Pantasy has selected it well, at least for all of these coated pieces. We can see some of them even all the way up here, all the way up to these top details. The coated or painted pieces are very, very bright. There are quite a few injection molded gold pieces built into this as well. And you can see some of those like right there and right through this strip here, which are a little bit too dim and a little bit too orange. But you don't see a whole lot of that. They didn't hold back on giving us a lot of these beautiful painted pieces. These builds in here, these toy soldiers, my gosh, they have so much detail. When you get to that point in the build, because each of these has a slightly different build. Oops, I think I did something wrong here. This one I think is hitting the top. There we go. Yep, sure enough. I had knocked these out of alignment when I moved the thing into the studio, and I hadn't put it back all the way. But it's nice that you're able to rotate this around because, again, each of these has a slightly different build to it. Different instruments or faux weapons that they're holding on to, mostly instruments. And they take a long time to build. There's a little bit of detail down in the middle as well. There are a lot of details in this that you honestly don't see a whole lot when you're done. Thankfully, they do allow you to open it up. But if you want to really appreciate all the stuff that you've built here after the fact, you are going to need to remove some of the floors to really get in there. Because like that robot right there is really nice. Thankfully, you can see that from the outside, and you can see a bunch of actual Pantasy sets that they've made micro or nano versions of, which I think is a perfect celebration of their history up to this point. Short though it is, they have come quite a long way, and they've gotten a lot done. They've accomplished quite a bit in such a short amount of time. Again, this kind of plane, everything else has a nice level of detail. Not everybody's going to appreciate all that gold. And we were talking about that during the live build of this on Twitch and YouTube with a lot of viewers. We're talking about that. And it's kind of an ongoing discussion, like, where does taste come from? I think in the West, gold like this, even this much of it, which isn't a whole lot, but there's a fair amount of it. It's not covering everything. It feels tasteful for, I think, the what they're looking for here, what they're trying to go for. But I think in the West, even that much gold is considered to be, or just shininess in general, is considered to be tacky, right? And I think that in some other cultures, such as where Pantasy is from, in mainland China, as well as Southeast Asia, South Asia, all the way out to the Middle East, I think that this style would be appreciated a lot more than it is by people like myself. So I think there's definitely some regional bias involved in that. And no matter what, I think that the design decisions made here are valid. I think that the color selection, the color blocking, the amount of the golds, the really fancy decorations that they put on here, the amount of texture versus smooth areas is done very, very well with a good eye for design, for what they're going for. I can see what they're going for. It's just that what they are going for is not going to be what everybody wants to see. This little door over here, interestingly, you could open it up if this railing wasn't in the way. See this right here, this handrail? But if I push that out of the way by pushing it through, then it's going to loop kind of weird in here. This whole thing was just a little bit odd. I do wish that these tube pieces from Go Bricks were a little bit easier to bend. Yeah, just easier to bend because they tend to get in the way of some things. But you do have this see-through area. You can see the tower inside of there, which is another kind of nano build. And, there are, even though this thing unfortunately does not have lights, you are able to see inside because there are enough windows, and the windows are close enough to the surface where they're able to grab light and allow light to come directly in. On that topic of light, obviously there's no skylight here. There's no light piping to allow lights to come into the center of the ground floor. And so you can appreciate a lot of the details here, but I feel like I'm starting to get spoiled by the many companies that are including lights in here. And I kind of feel like, I don't know. I think buildings just need to always have lights now. This is a very strange thing. I know it costs more, and we as consumers are going to have to accept that we're going to have to pay more in order to get lights and things. But it just feels like that's the new standard that needs to be hit every single time. I'll show you what this looks like with more light, though, by taking the upper floor off. But first, I wanted to just show you what it looks like in its most native form. This was a really interesting build over here. The shadow box with the butterfly in it, because of the order of operations. You do a little bit of that, and then you don't finish the sides, you don't fully enclose it until much later on. Just interesting. I think orders of operation throughout this are done pretty well. Like I could tell that the designers had physically built it, and maybe they spread the job around of build testing to other people, because it definitely feels like the instructions kind of had people other than the designer in mind. The way that they were put together. Here you can see more Pantasy actual set builds. This is a print up here, of course. These are nice little two-piece gliders, little airplanes, little plastic airplanes that you can throw. And again, anything that you see that is a decoration is done with a print, including even these over here. It's interesting. I think the leading brand out there, the biggest, most expensive brand, probably these days does checkout registers, which is just such a common thing. Anytime you show commerce in a build, does them the worst. I think every other company is doing them better. Like, this is just so much more realistic compared to what the big brand does these days. The other floors come off just so easily. It actually is very, very convenient to get to this. And now obviously plenty of light is coming through, and you can see even more of the builds, which include some things directly from Pantasy itself. Oops. This is just a little shopping cart, which is a nice build. Not the most sturdy thing, but it works, and once it's put together. And it did have a regular teddy bear in it. Let me just get that, which has no print on it. Like so. I'll get that out the way. But yeah, you see the large castle build over there, Fantasy Castle build, which looks exactly like what it's supposed to represent. And then you see other toys that aren't supposed to represent just things from Pantasy, because this is not a Pantasy store. It's a toy store. But definitely the highlight of this space is not the longboat. I believe that's a longboat. At first I thought it was a Chinese junk, but I think it's supposed to be like an ancient Nordic longboat or longship. But this is the highlight here, because this represents the start of Pantasy, right? One of their first products, if not their very first product, and highest selling series has been their Astro Boy series. You can get this as a set from Pantasy right now. It's about what, $80 or so, with tons and tons of detail in it. But it's nice that they created this larger than life version. So this would be larger than the size of a minifigure, and just have it on display. You know, just as something to show that they're proud of their own work, and again, their own progression through time and stuff. A little steampunk area over here, including one of their small builds. More prints up on the wall here, and an actual working gumball machine to kind of contrast against their little brick-built one over here, which is slightly smaller in how it's depicted. The one thing that's missing here definitely is any sort of studding of the surface. This is all fully tiled. And I say that, I talk about that a lot. And some people might think that I'm being a little bit mean and always making fun of them for not doing, I should turn this around so you can see what it looks like, what the box looks like, for not putting studs in the floors. But this figure right here, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the video, I had this one sitting down because it's so back heavy that if I try to put it on a perfect level surface with the regular standing up legs, it falls back all the time. I could not get it to stay standing up. So those figures with their big heads and sometimes off center of gravities or centers of gravity really need studs. If any figure series or figure design needs studs, it's the ones from Pantasy. So they really need to get on that and include at least the option for builders to include studs, even if they don't want to have it be the default. Even if their customers typically want more of the smooth surfaces, they need to offer the option, give you the alternate parts in the form of some jumpers or just some smaller tiles and then some regular plates to enable that through here. This next floor up is basically an arcade. It's a play space, an active play space for the figures to hang out and enjoy, but you don't see most of the arcades from this side, or most of the machines from this side, obviously, but I did want you to see what this would look like from here, as you're just looking from the back where you've got the nice door that can open up as a huge figure, right? As a human. You do get to see the other side of this display very nicely, and as it rotates around, that looks really good. And you can just imagine the figures coming up to that and kind of marveling at it up close. You can also see the Christmas tree, which is a relatively new set from Pantasy over here on the side. And this is made with the leaves being the regular green rather than the bright green. It makes me think that real set, the actual set, would have looked better with just the regular green. Wouldn't have stood out quite as much, wouldn't have been literally as bright, but I think it would have looked more classy, just personally. And it's the micro build that taught me that. But over here, you've got your air hockey table, and you can remove each of these machines. I'll just go ahead and turn it around so that you can see how you could see that without taking them out first, what that would look like, right? But I will go ahead and take them out and also show you the balcony again. So over here, we've got this build, which is cool because it actually has a little bit of action. You can make the figure go up and down. That's a nice little feature. how much can you expect to do in such a small space? This thing is what, 3 studs wide, something like that. But to have an actual action in there is just nice. And then, of course, is a printed piece right there. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to the possibility that the pinball table here could have at least a little tile moving around, but it doesn't. It's just too small for that. Great level of detail for its size, though. Great level of detail. But yeah, it just doesn't quite have enough size to actually cause some actions in there. This I like because I like cars and I like driving games in general. I'm just going to pull this off because I don't think the whole thing, let's see, can I pull the whole thing up from the base? Yes, I can. Yes, there we go. So this is like a traditional old school sit down racer game, and it looks a lot like Test Drive on the screen. Look at that. That's so cool. That print is awesome. I like it. And the whole build is good too. And this is designed to hold a Pantasy figure. They have a single stud where they sit down, as opposed to what you might be more used to, 2 to 4 studs. So this will actually accommodate them. It's the one thing in the set that will actually accommodate the figures properly, holding onto them, causing them to stay in one place. Because again, no place to actually attach their feet throughout this. It's also very tight around the edges with the staircase. Like if you imagine a figure coming up here, they barely have enough room to turn around, but that's okay because you don't want to waste a ton of space for the staircase. So I think that this is a fine compromise over here to have the suggestion of the staircase, have enough space to where you can kind of do like this, right? Even if they're not able to actually stand there long term because they don't have the studs and they barely have enough space to fit there, at least you can do this, and it feels like they would be able to move around kind of in their universe. Now this thing over here, you saw it from the outside, like what was that? Well, it's this. See, it's this. It's a clown face, and then the idea is it's the game, and you hit it, and then there you go. That's the little transformation. So it looks weird from the outside, but yeah, that's it. And then again, just closing the loop on this level. This is the balcony, which I can just imagine being the space where the adults would come to hang out and just kind of chill, relax, grab a drink from, I don't know where from, but just hang out, enjoy the view. Obviously, you could be able to see out at whatever else is going on in the city. Got some plants here. Nice little design with some suggestion for safety with the railing there. Like this is done nicely. The adults hang out here while the kids are playing inside. It all just works. Last and least, I would say the roof just has some additional play space here. And you got the teeter-totter, which is set up once again to actually hold the figures here. I'll just demonstrate how the seating works, right? It's just one single stud. And you just imagine these are going back and forth. They don't quite have enough room back here for the figures with the hair like this, so they're not able to go all the way up and down. This side is clear, but that side is not. But yeah, that's all that's going on up here. You got a couple more plants. This level is mostly used for decoration, not around the back. There is this door here to kind of the attic storage space, and inside is just the suggestion of one more thing, and you have to use your imagination to figure out what that actually specifically represents. It's a little bit structural in that spot, but it's like a surprise box. So again, use your imagination for that, I think is what they were going for. But most of what is accomplished with the roof section, that last floor, is all this here on the front, which I think is done pretty nicely. Although I personally don't like the little white ingots on top. I think those could have been replaced with just about any other color from the theme. I just don't think the white goes there personally, but that's a tiny nitpick. The rest of this is nice. No gaps all around here, like the way that this is done up at the top. It's done pretty well. Oh, this isn't good. The yellow Technic half bushing. That's a super nitpick, but this is an angle that we just, as humans standing next to a table or desk or a shelf or something, can see because we can look down there. So if that was covered, it would be better just a little bit. But at least the way that this display is set up, it holds this nice thick printed piece, which does come with plastic covering over it to make sure it doesn't get any scuffs on it, any scratches. You take that off and you get to see the full quality of it. But it's held in place pretty well. And I do like the little bit of dark orange used here for the fake ventilation shafts. Unlike Pantasy itself, I have studded surfaces to hold the feet of my figures, so I can display these all nice and securely like this. Again, this is the 5th anniversary figure over on the right. I like how they did the headgear. They've got a nice system going here. The hair pieces, which on this one includes the bottom, rear, as well as the front. Those you add in yourself. So those are not printed little sections. They're not dual molded. Just a little bit of kit building, a little bit of snap building that you do there, kind of outside of the standard world of bricks and more like a traditional plastic model, just without glue and stuff. Nicely done. Gives you really perfect color separation because it's 2 separate pieces. And the colors are nice and sharp. I think the prints here are pretty good. We will forever be debating the designs of these figures. A lot of people will never like this design, and that's just the way that it is. A lot of people will never like this design of figure. They cannot do figures like this. These are very extremely heavily trademark protected in so many aspects of them. I personally think that this design is strong. It's good. It looks good. I think that it's very aware of trends. The only problem is that you do have to switch out to alternate legs in order to get them to sit. They don't have that articulation. And, well, yeah, that really is the main problem with them. Because they do have, anti-studs down below. They also do have these huge heads, which makes them tend to have just crazy high center of gravity. And like I said, with this one here in particular, there's so much weight at the back that I was not able to get it to stand on its own on a flat surface without studs below. Unless I put the arms like all the way forward, and then it would just barely work. But the look of the figures, I think, is good. They just need to work on accommodation for them in the sets. And then here are the other 2 figures. See what they got going on with accessories? Like the scarf is a separate piece and it fits in there very, very nicely. And there's still room for the arm to move on that side. That they definitely have a good thing going. They got prints on the back as well. The sculpts for the hair, I think, are nice. And I'm glad that the hair pieces are not shiny. They're not super glossy. Similar with the heads and all the skin tone. All the skin areas that are shown do not have glossiness to them. It's kind of a low satin finish, which just makes them feel a little bit more premium. And it's just a little sandblasting, a little texturing that is done to not literally sandblasting necessarily, maybe though, the texturing that's done to the molds that allows that to happen. They have the option to make them any texture they want. Takes a little bit of extra effort, might cost a little bit more to set up the molds to get it like this, but they've done it right. And I think these are good quality and at some point in the future could actually feel collectible to people. I hope that some folks come around to enjoying these because I think they are enjoyable, even though they're different. Lastly, here are the sitting legs for all 4 of the main figures. Unfortunately, the anniversary figure did not come with its own set of sitting legs. Here I'm totally cheating by having this figure lean against the base just a little bit. It might fall over as I move this. But again, this is just a little bit shy of 3,000 pieces, which is ridiculous for a 32 by 32 modular building with effectively just 2 stories, 2 levels to it. That's a lot of detail, and you feel it when you're building it. They have some areas along the way, sometimes along the way where you make good progress, or there it goes. You add a lot of structure and then you slow all the way down. You pull the handbrake and you slow all the way down and work on tiny little details for a while. It's worth it though. The details are good and they're enjoyable. And if you recognize what the thing is, they're even more enjoyable still. I think this is a good set. I'm happy with it. I think it's well done. What I like about the set least, beyond the lack of studs for the figures thing, is this right here. That's just so plain. If they had just broken this up a little bit, again, they would have had to move the parts budget around a little bit because this is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces for most of this wall. So you need a lot more pieces than that to add some texture, but I think it would have been worth it to add some texture to just make it look a little bit more like this, just a little bit of variety. So it's not just a flat space, especially of this relatively controversial color. And that's a personal thing. The color, some people would be more bothered by it than others, but even without that, even if it was the most perfect color that absolutely everybody loves, which there is no such thing, still a little bit of texture to break it up would have would have improved the look of it. You even have a little bit of texture right here, just something small. The back is okay. This is weird though, right? An upside down clown face. You could do this, now you have an upside down bang. Like they don't have an option to cover that up. That's also a little bit awkward, but I don't know, from a distance, it just looks like a little bit of texture in this space. Again, it's better to have something than nothing. Even this down here, just having one little area that's a different color, and then the little suggestion of some HVAC over here, and this strip down below for this, the bottom tables or shelving. I don't love this, but the white still goes with the rest of the scheme. Just little things like that. The fact that they've got some cases out here, some boxes, stuff like this, just stuff to break it up a little bit helps. But the rest of it I think is really good, and it's just not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to appreciate this taste, this style, this much gold. I didn't like the opera house that they did. I thought that did gold wrong. It looked too pasted on, didn't look integrated in. This looks integrated in. This looks like it had a design concept and they executed on that concept. I think they did a good job. But again, not for everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video has provided some insight for you, or at least it's been entertaining to look at this, even if you're not interested in buying it. If you are interested in buying it, please consider using one of my affiliate links in the video description, but zero pressure on that. I do not ever want anybody to buy something or feel pressured to buy something that they don't want. Please don't do that. Like even on your own, on any channel, don't feel pressured ever by anybody to buy something you don't want. It's not good. Buy things you like, enjoy what you like, and go for happiness for yourself and you and yours. Again, thanks for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.